Hey everybody, good evening. Welcome to a special comic art spotlight collector interview. We haven't done a lot of these because we're always kind of regimental on our Tuesdays and our Thursdays with the CAF updates and things. But this is actually day 5 of 7 that I've had a live stream. So we've been mixing it up a lot this week, and it's been a lot of fun. But it's been keeping me very busy. And when I was planning this out with Jason, I had made the mistake that I booked him for yesterday when I was doing the George Harriman show, and this was just a good day to kind of wedge this conversation in. So that's why we worked this out. But before I bring Jason into the chat today, I wanted to remind everybody that we're collecting artwork for the Best of competition, Best of 2020 on CAF. It's if you're not familiar with it, it's a thing that's been around for probably 20 years. It started out on the old Comic Art L website, and it was just, and on that website, you could only submit 5 pieces at a time. And so at the end of the year, or the beginning of every new year, they would replace their 5 pieces that they had in their galleries, at the end of the year with whatever they felt their 5 best acquisitions were. And then they gave everybody a week to submit their 5 pieces or change them. And then they did this ad hoc voting method that I don't even know if it had categories at the time. They probably tried to do it. I don't really know how it was done, but about 15 years ago, we took over hosting that for the Comic Art L when and it was also within the Lowry that's on CAF. And so it followed the same pattern where you had to go in and update these 5 pieces at the end of the year, and then we would do the voting. And last year we made a major update on that where you don't have to add the pieces in because technically they're already in your gallery, and we only let you pick pieces that you added in the year 2020 to that. And it's a real simple process. It's very easy, and that it's going on right now. And I kind of wanted to just pull up the screen and show you a little bit about how to get to it. I mean, right now we have there's a link in the menu to get to the Best of 2020 preview, which is what this page is. And this is just kind of a main window preview of each of the 10 categories that Brian Peck has put together now. So there's a best of published or unpublished covers. Yeah, then there's a section for splashes and title pages, interior pages, pinups, strip art, commissions and recreations. There's a section for sketch covers and convention sketches. So, Brian's who I work with on this, he has kind of tried to make it as categorically precise as possible, because everybody was always getting mad when people would put a commission in a covered section or vice versa, and then they always felt that would skew the result, the voting results that happen after the submission process is over. So I think we have about 800 pieces submitted to it so far. The submission process does go through Sunday evening at midnight Eastern Standard Time. So I would definitely encourage you guys to put it in there. It really is more a celebration of the hobby and of your collections in particular. It's a lot of fun because the people who are still participate in the Comic Art L over on the free list site, when they'll always post their 5 pieces to let everybody know what their picks were. And typically a lot of guys will write up, why they bought that piece or why they like that artist. So really it's a really fun thing to do and participate in. And there's no awards. One day there's some things that we'd like to do and we've talked about doing. It's just a question of time and me, actually being able to add more programming time to Maureen's schedule. But to get your pieces into the best of, there's a link underneath your account and collection menu. And you just click on that. Very simple. This page just shows you artwork that you've added to your gallery, to any gallery room in the year 2020. And you can see I only added 5, but and I did it at the end of the year. But there's just a drop menu. You pick which category you want to put it into. If I wanted to add my Bruce Timm into the, convention sketch. That's not a convention sketch. I guess this would be considered a commission, even though, I guess that's why sometimes it makes it very hard. It's very subjective. But you just pick the pieces that you want to have in there. I had picked this fantastic 4-piece already to put in there. You click Update Your Selections, and now they're both highlighted in green. So it pulls the pieces up to the top that you have, and you only are allowed to submit 5 total pieces still. So the page is smart enough to know that if you do pick 6 pieces, it'll save them, but it'll say it hasn't submitted them, and you have to go back and get yourself back down to 5. So you don't have to submit 5. You could submit 1, but this is where you get those pieces into the best of. after Sunday night, the submission process ends, and then on Monday, the voting begins. And if anybody remembers the way the voting worked, it's always been pretty awful. And literally, I put a set of drop menus on the page, and you have to pick the title of each piece. And Maureen and I are actually working on a much more intuitive system for that, similar to that screen you just saw, where you can pick you can actually say you can cast 5 votes per category. And what we're going to do this time around is the same thing, but you can essentially go in and pick, say, 20. Like you want to like highlight them so maybe you can review them better. You'll pick the 20, save it, and it'll pull those 20 up to the top of the list, so you can then refine it. Because we'll basically say you've picked 20, you can only pick 5 before you cast your vote. And so at that point, you'll be able to whittle that 20 down to 5. Then you can save it. You can't save your cast your votes until you get it down to 5. So it's so much more visual. No more drop menus and titles and crazy stuff like that. I don't know how anybody managed to vote on the best of in the past, but we've made it this far, so it was definitely time to upgrade that as well. So look for that on Monday. But again, I hope to have you guys submit some work to that, because it is fun. So we've got Jason D'Ambrosio in the green room here. So let me bring him up into this conversation. Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Hey, Bill. What's up, everybody?
Nice to have you here. I'm glad we could work this into the schedule this week, man.
Thanks for having me. And my best of are in already, Bill. So my 5 are in there. Feel free to vote away on them.
There you go. And it was funny, and you had mentioned this to me and of course after I booked you, that everybody's been wanting me to bring in newer collectors to the hobby. And it's funny because seeing your collection, I would never have guessed that you've really only been collecting for the last 2 years, because people typically don't have the kind of pieces that you have in your collection. So yeah, I've only known really about your collection and maybe the last year where I started taking notice of it, especially since you're an X-Men collector like myself. But
who isn't anymore, right?
Exactly. Why couldn't I have liked Westerns or something?
I say that all the time. Superman. I should like Superman.
Right. I mean, you can get a great Kurt Swan page, right? For I wouldn't say a song, but try to get a Paul Smith X-Men page, or try to get you can't even touch Cochran pages if you really wanted to. Well, you could, but you'd blow your budget for the year.
Yep.
So, no, I'm with you there. I am very much with you there. And Ankur says you are the biggest collector in the tri-state area.
Thank you, buddy. It's just something I jumped really in, and my comic collection suffered from it. I sold off a lot of stuff to buy the art, but it's been fast and furious for the last couple of years, so it's good. I love it.
Well, I hear you. So I guess, we've already kind of skipped over what I would normally ask you. But so again, how did you get started collecting original art, since it should be fresh in your mind, considering it's only been a few years?
Well, I've been a lifelong comic collector, right? The first comic book that I ever had, my aunt bought me an X-Men 175. You said about Paul Smith, right? Mm-hmm. So that was the first comic I ever had. It was like the perfect issue, too. I don't know how familiar you are with the run, but 174 is a really crummy kind of Scott out of costume cover, and 176 is him just on the island. 175 is the perfect book, right? It's action. Mm-hmm. It's got all the characters and costumes, so on and so forth. So I was hooked from there, right? 5-year-old me collected through, monthly through, into my 30s, really. Floppies. I even worked at a comic store when I was in college. I worked in a comic store in New Jersey, and so I was an avid collector, and I knew about art back then, but I didn't have the money. I was lucky if I had the money to buy my pull list back then, So, one of the owners of the shop is actually an OA collector, and I know to this day she still has the Preacher 1 cover, So I was aware of it. It was just not I liked it. I wanted it, but I didn't have the money for it. So I collected monthly, into my 30s, and it got to a point where it was just too much. The books I wasn't reading everything anymore. It was a chore to go pick up books. So I stopped collecting. I'm 44. I'll be 45 this year, just to kind of give you an idea of the time frame. So I stopped collecting somewhere in my 30s. At that point, the Marvel movies were out. So I was getting the fix on the characters I like through different venues anyway. So I stopped collecting. Boxes all sat, long boxes everywhere. 20 years or 25 years of collecting monthly. A few years ago, I was moving the boxes around again. You know how you move the boxes, a box gets wet, it's annoying, whatever. So I was talking to my girlfriend and I said that, I don't really want to sell all of this. Who wants runs of Excalibur or whatever 90s Drek were in those boxes? So I decided that I wanted to donate them. I wanted to donate the comics to somewhere, not that they were going to sell them, but I wanted to find places where they would actually go to kids so they could enjoy them the same way I did growing up. And, the characters and mostly Marvel. And so she did a lot of research. I mean, we drove down to Ronald McDonald House in Philly and dropped off 10 long boxes to them for their library, and the Boy Scouts of America and some of the more mature titles. I wound up giving to like a veterans charity. But I was smart. I worked in a comic shop. I went through the boxes and pulled out all the keys and all the Silver Age stuff, and that I was going to keep.
Mm-hmm.
From going through everything after not looking at anything for 5 years or 8 years or whatever it is, I kind of nostalgia kicks in, right? And I wanted to start collecting. So at that point, I decided, you know what? I want to fill out my X-Men run, right? I never finished my X-Men run when I was younger, so I wanted to go. So I started going to shows and jumped feet back in for books. Buying everything, kind of buying all the stuff I couldn't afford when I was younger, all the Silver Age stuff, all the first appearances, so on and so forth. Then, you get onto the CGC boards and you start seeing graded books or whatever, and it kind of dawned on me, it was always about the art. And the biggest thing, I guess, that really kind of stuck this in my head is, Anthony Schneider's local to me. So I'm friends with Anthony at this point, but back then I wasn't. But I did buy comics from him. I did go down to his warehouse all the time. And I saw all the art. And that fascination that I had younger and couldn't act on kind of lit itself up a little bit. And then, you're on an auction for Heritage looking at comics, and then you look at the art, and you're on this auction or you're on eBay. And one night I was on eBay looking at something, and there was a Nate Stockman commission. It's a fastball special. It's Colossus throwing Wolverine, right? Really well done, like a finished commission. And it was cheap. It was, I don't know, $200 or best offer or something like that. So I made an offer, $100, $125, something like that. The guy accepted it. And then it was all downhill from there, Bill, because, you know how this goes. And I dabbled a little at first and kind of, a couple $100 piece here, $100 piece here by Anthony. But the stuff that I love was tough, right? We talked about how expensive the X-Men. So I started with Paul Smith, Romita pages, Silvestri pages, Jim Lee pages. Jim Lee is probably the height of when I was deepest into collecting. So looking at those pages in my mind these numbers are just incredible. So I was buying smaller stuff, sketches, doing some commission, going to shows and getting sketch covers. And the cover right behind me, actually, the Scott Williams X-Men cover. I don't know if you have that, if you want to pull that up real quick.
I can.
So this is me and Scott, and this was a variant cover that he had done in 19. And the second I saw this image, he posted it on social media or whatever, and I just needed it. It was the first piece of modern art that I needed. It just kind of encompassed everything I wanted, right? And even talking to him, he said he tried to channel Neil Adams, and his Jim Lee and put his own flavor to it. And I felt all that when I was looking at it. So I wasn't really an art collector at that point. I had no idea how to try and go find this piece of art. So I messaged them on Twitter, and it was 10 times anything I had ever spent on art at the time. And I knew I wanted it. You know, I make decent money, whatever, but it was still a big amount for me to be spending on a collectible. So I told them I wanted it, and then I backed out of it, and then, I told them I wanted it. And thankfully, Scott is an art collector. Everybody knows that, right? Scott's an art collector.
Oh, yeah.
So he says to me, he goes, Jay, do you want time payments on this? And I was like, what? I was like, you mean like you'll give me time to pay it off? He's like, yeah, that's real common in the art collecting world. Like it didn't even dawn on me that this was something I could look into to try and buy these bigger pieces. So Scott wound up giving me some time, and then he came out to do a show in Long Island and hand delivered it, and it was just an awesome experience. And that's where I took the next step. So I guess I could blame Scott Williams for my collection, but it's good. It's a good thing. I mean, and then from there it just snowballed. Figure out how to get it, sell some comic books, whatever it takes.
So do you have any comic books left to sell, or have you sold them all now?
I still have a fair amount. Luckily, I just whenever I saw a key, even going back 25 years, for a decent price, I would buy it. So I had a lot of multiples of Marvel keys, and the market, just like the comic art market, is exploding. So a lot of that stuff I was able to, CGC it and grade it and sell it for good money. I do have some. I have my X-Men run. I still have my X-Men run and, that stuff. But a lot of it went into the art world.
Very cool. I mean, a very similar story for me. X-Men was the run that I wanted to complete. And after I completed it, at the show that I was at, that's where I discovered buying original art because I had extra money. I was like, what else am I going to spend at this Wizard show in Chicago? And I stumbled upon Fanfare's booth, who's now out of business, and Philip Anderson. They were sharing a space, and I picked up some X-Men art. That was really got me hooked. But it was completing that run and then not knowing what to do after that. I mean that's it's funny that's where it goes. But I just with the CGCs, I started realizing like, okay, I grew up loving the characters, reading the books. Now I have these plastic pictures, essentially, right? You can't read the book anymore. You can't handle it. So why not buy the art that's one of a kind instead of, a million of a kind? And then I got lucky. I really think I'm lucky though, because one thing jumping into this hobby is like I was joking that I didn't even know you could ask for time payments, right? Trying to buy that piece from Scott. I made friends pretty quickly with a couple guys in New Jersey here that have been instrumental in me being able to navigate this hobby. Encore is a good friend of mine, you know that, right? And Nick Cardy is a good friend of mine, and I clicked really well with both of them. As much as being friends with Anthony is good, he's still a dealer, right? So it's a little bit different. Those guys, collectors, were able to, having people to bounce off ideas or thoughts or what really helped me to feel more comfortable spending the money on this stuff and understanding how the market was and where to go for something or who to talk to or work out a trade and stuff like that. So I really have to thank both of those guys and others, but those especially for helping me navigate. That first year was just like, I don't know how much. It's the Wild West with art, It's not like I knew comics. You go on GPA, you look up the price guide, you look at what something sold for, you know how much it is. With art, it's all you just hope somebody's being honest about it or realistic. Exactly. Well, when pages in the same issue can go for dramatically different prices just based on the characters on the page, or God forbid there were two inkers on the book and everybody likes one inker versus the other one. So it's far too subjective, and you were very fortunate to have both of those guys as mentors or people to bounce ideas off of early on, because most collectors, when they get started, they're kind of in a vacuum. They don't, as you're learning the hobby, you don't have anybody. And 20 years ago, it was really hard. That's why CAF became CAF, because I didn't know anybody in the hobby, but having people to bounce off questions and get their opinion on prices would be invaluable to anyone. And Ankur and Nick, both of those guys have, I'm sure between the two of them have almost 60 years in the hobby, and they would be the perfect foils for somebody to guys to learn from.
And they complement each other, because Ankur collects more modern stuff, sketches, commissions, and Nick is, tried and true silver and bronze. So it really, like I said, I'm really lucky to have run into both of them and became friends.
And Ankur says, now back off the X-Men. Yes.
That is the only problem.
Right, exactly. That's how things are, nowadays. Every time I see a nice X-Men piece pop up through CAF's, dealer search function, literally it seems like they're gone within the first hour or two. And it doesn't surprise me, but it does surprise me. This year has really changed the way people collect, since they're not traveling to shows. Everybody's got a little bit of extra money. That's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to seeing how this best of 2020 shakes out, because I think it's been a banner year for collectors.
It's crazy.
It has been. So it just makes everything all the more difficult. I think I saw was a Romita Jr. or a Silvestri X-Men piece pop up. Maybe Romita man had it, and it was gone in like the first hour.
Bill Berkey had that. I said to my buddies, I overslept. I slept in on Saturday and missed that piece. As soon as I woke up, it was 10 o'clock in the morning. I emailed Mike. I'm like, I want this. And it was gone, and he posted it at, it was there for 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I know. Well, I will say that I do believe that want list feature that I added, that I modified in early 2020, where it emails premium members within 5 minutes of a piece being added. I think that's kind of what's driving these purchases, unfortunately. So it's like I've made my own worst thing. You can't get lucky anymore. You really have to be at your email or at your phone, wherever you're having those alerts sent to. So live and learn. You have a want list set up, I hope, right? Keywords.
I do have a want list. So I check those emails all the time, and it's a great tool. But like you said, that's you can't hesitate when you see something. You want to negotiate and you want to think about it or whatever, but certain pieces, certain in-demand runs, you literally can't think, or you blink and you lose it.
Exactly. No, I know. And most dealers won't really negotiate on new pieces anyway. So when these things are coming up through the want list alerts and whatnot, they're going to be less likely to want to give you a deal unless you're buying more than that one piece, which, isn't going to really happen when you're trying to jump on something that's new. So yeah, no, I know. Because I actually, looked, I didn't send an inquiry because I clicked over probably around the same time as you, around 10 o'clock, and it was already gone. And Berkey said the same thing. He's like, he laughed. He said something like, I emailed the guy. He must have been sitting at his computer when the update came in, because I think the guy emailed him within like 5 minutes of it getting posted. So live and learn.
That's it. Got to have friends in this hobby, or you'll never get anything, Bill.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And Matthew mentioned something that he's a part of CAF and finds it hard to use the site still. So Matthew, you can certainly send me an email through the support and let me know what you're finding hard to use. I'd be happy to help explain it.
Bill, as a new guy, it's a little overwhelming getting on that site.
It is. It's funny. I was thinking about. I was looking at Facebook and YouTube today, and the way that I'm able to do these streams and how I can order, and just manage the pages that display these. And I was looking at Facebook and I was like, damn it, Facebook is like CAF. The reason I hate having these streamed and have people view these conversations on Facebook is just because it's so unwieldy, because Facebook tries to be so many different things that, I can't find things half the time on Facebook when I want it. They're a marketplace, they're a chat, they're groups, they're pages, they're live streams, all this stuff. And YouTube is nice just because it's just videos, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they do that well, and it's organized. And I honestly thought the same thing. I'm like, CAF is like Facebook. Part of the redesign that we're working on right now, I hope to simplify things a little bit so new people coming to the site aren't just overwhelmed. There's no message or link that says, hey, start a gallery. People don't even know what the intent is. I get emailed all the time. Like somebody might be in your gallery, say you've got a piece for sale or something. They'll use the site support form and send me an email asking if, where's the checkout for this piece of art that's in your gallery. It doesn't mention you because they don't get it. They look at it as if it's a big store, and they don't understand that it's a set of galleries.
I'll tell you a funny story.
Please.
So this is probably, I was on CAF maybe 6 months or 8 months at this point. I knew how to search for art for sale, right? I figured that out.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew when you searched for art for sale, you could also click on member results, right? To just see other pieces that are of that, whatever your search is.
Yep.
But I didn't know how to search without going through for sale. So if I couldn't find a hit for sale, it wouldn't show member results. So it took me like 6 or 8 months to find the other search, which is up on the right-hand corner.
Right.
And it was so frustrating because I'd put something in, like Paul Smith X-Men, and there'd be none for sale. So I couldn't even figure out how to look at somebody else's.
Yeah,
and ask somebody if they want to sell.
That is a flaw too, and I think I've even pointed it out to Maureen, because if you search in the dealer for sale and there's no results, the menu that would show you the results that are in people's galleries doesn't show up. We have and it's just a dumb if-then statement that needs to be moved down so it'll still show that. And I've pointed it out to her a couple times because it catches me too. I'm like, where's my damn list? And but that's the problem with CAF. You a lot of these things you don't see. If I don't see it on a daily basis, I forget about it. And sometimes when I forward a problem like that to Maureen and I say, hey, would you just tweak this and fix it for me? She doesn't always get to it, and then I forget. And here we are still talking about it 18 years later.
It was like an epiphany when I found the other search function. I'll be honest with you. It was, I'd change it up, just Paul Smith or Paul Smith, whatever, Doctor Strange, to hope to find something else. But
right.
I love your site though. Without it, there would be no hobby, and that's the truth. I really think that.
Well, I appreciate that, but no, I love getting criticism like that or just comments. I mean, again, a lot of that stuff, are just oversights. You just don't know. And I forget, there was something really comical that I pointed out to Maureen the other day where something wasn't working right in a given situation. And I'm like, I don't know how I've not run into this problem before, similar to what we were just talking. And so we fixed it immediately. But people have been struggling with whatever these things are for long periods of time. And usually it just takes, hey, tell me when it's broken, or tell me when something looks stupid or incorrect. And I'm happy to fix it.
Feedback's a gift, right?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of times people get concerned, they don't want to upset me, but usually I get more upset when I find out something's been broken for years and nobody told me. So, that's funny. I wish Nick was here commenting. He'll probably watch this later, but now Nick was actually, I wouldn't say he was one of my mentors because I met Nick a few years after I got into the hobby, but he really helped me out a lot with different questions I had early on too. So Nick's a great guy. And with luck, I will get him on one of these chats one day. He would be a lot of fun.
I try every time I talk to him.
I know. Well, one of the things that, like the George Harriman thing we did last night, I really want to do a show like that on, say, Sal Buscema, and get some people from the Buscema group. And I think that would be a really fun chat. And I definitely would want Nick to be a part of it. And, and maybe just bringing in a group of people that are all passionate about the same thing, would be a way to get him to join in on something, and then we can see where that would go. But that's something that's high on my list for 2021, is to do a lot more of those. And so honestly, if people have suggestions on which artists they would like to hear a group of passionate collectors talk about, I'm all ears, because that's really where I want to take these chats going forward. I still want to do the interviews, but as supplemental kind of content to the channel. That's something I want to focus on. And
Makes sense.
and speak of Nick Cardy, and he shows up.
Hey, Nick.
So you want to look at some art? I mean, you gave me a few
Yeah.
pieces to look at. Why don't we talk about some of the pieces in your collection here? And I did want to say this too. You know, sorry to interrupt you, but Jason has had my back since whenever anything's wrong, he's stepped in and he's like my eyes and ears on the ground whenever there's a disturbance in the force of comic art and CAF. And I have to tell you, Jason, I sincerely appreciate it. You know, because like when we had that one issue, you were the only person to contact me. And
oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, who knows how I might have heard about it later if it wasn't for you. So I sincerely, you know, I appreciate it. I need more people, you know, like that. It just helps. You know, I don't pay attention to every single, you know, group out there, you know, on the internet. So having people let me know when there's a problem is very beneficial, and I do appreciate that a lot.
I'm not shy, Bill. That's what it is. So you'll hear it.
All right, let's see. Here we go. There's another piece behind you.
Oh, my Storm.
Yep.
So obviously, Art Adams. Growing up, when I did with the X-Men, Art Adams was one of my favorite artists. You know, the annuals and so on and so forth. And again, this was something I really didn't think I would ever own an Adams cover. Again, very higher end, more expensive. And this cover was in a Comic Link auction. And I truly believe that I won this cover because it was the first item in the auction. And it went for a little bit less than his covers usually do. And I made one bid and I won it. And I was so excited. And because of their format with, you know, not extending the bidding like Heritage, it one bid and there it was, Storm in her, you know, John Byrne outfit taking down a Sentinel. Perfect cover for me.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard similar things, you know, about with Comic Link. I've actually never bid on any of their auctions, not only because I was out of collecting for a few years, and I finally started looking a little bit more closely at what they've got. But I have heard that as well. Like sometimes you just really luck out.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading. I don't know if it was your market report or somebody else puts out a market report. And it said that Art Adams' stuff goes cheaper in Comic Link than it does in Heritage. And I firmly believe, because Art Adams is usually the first pieces they come off, and there's no extended bidding. So people aren't there yet to bid.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, don't they organize their ending auctions maybe by artist name? Like you said,
Yep.
It's like if you go there today, because I was reviewing Colin's auction preview that he put together today, and I hopped over to Comic Link just to see what they have, and it's always Art Adams, Neil Adams, Neil Adams,
Yep.
Neil Adams. You know, every time. Well, that's that's interesting. I don't think we would have written that though, but I know there's a couple other people out there that write market reports, so that's an interesting observation. You know, because I tend to not. We don't really comment in our market reports on Comic Link auctions because I don't have a database of their inventory, and they haven't really gotten to the point where they want to share that. So I just omit trying to keep them, have them being a part of it.
Another part of the secrecy in this hobby, Comic Link, they don't want their prices out there for anyone to look at. It's amazing.
Right. I have talked to them a lot about it, and at least as of maybe 3 or 4 years ago, they always kind of felt like they were going to do something with their own market data. And I don't know how they were planning on offering it. Maybe they do it like Heritage, right? Have a repository or an archive of their own past sales, but nothing has really come of that as far as I know. That's why you get a lot of people thrill bidding early on, so you can get it in your list, and then so you can research your past bids, because it'll show you what it finally ended up at. There were a lot of guys that use Comic Link in that way, and I mean, maybe that's just kind of an approach to just getting people to get in and look at things early and get some bids in there. Maybe that's how it works. But I really wish they would let me report on their sales, because they do have a substantial amount of data. As far as they've been in business for a long time, and they probably sold some pieces that would be, near the top of, a particular artist or title's sales information. So I usually do a once a year ask. So I don't like to be a pest about it.
That's fair.
Yeah. And here's a piece.
You have something? Oh, there we go. Good.
Yeah.
I was going to say, do you have something that's not X-Men? Because
Yes.
Nick says I can't be just the X-Men guy. He tells me that all the time.
Well, that's funny. And before we talk about this piece, I was always getting X-Men con sketches and buying X-Men interiors when I started. And there was an artist that every time I saw him, I asked him to draw an X-Men piece for me. And I saw him at San Diego. And so I probably already had 5 or 6 sketches, maybe. And I went to him. And I'm like, yeah, give me an Emma Frost. He's like, Bill, you've got to break this habit, man. Ask me to draw Batman and anything, but you got to kick that habit. And it was funny. It was like after he said that, I realized I do got to branch out. And so I did actually start buying other things, but it wasn't until that guy told me, like 3 or 4 years into my collecting, since the time I had started, that I needed to break the habit. I had to stop being that guy. And so Nick tells you the same thing. That's funny.
Yeah, X was my first love, but I appreciate all comics. Like, I love the art. I love the different genres. And that's one thing that I am trying to do, is to just get examples of different pieces, different parts, different artists. I do appreciate everything. The X-Men are what's going to trigger me. It triggers the nostalgia like nothing else. So, with this piece got a great story. So I'm glad you picked this. I decided I wanted a horror, a bronze horror cover. So I was shopping around for it, looking at a bunch of them, trying to find one I like. I was looking at Cardy's mostly. I was looking at some Dominguez and some, Kuberts and so on and so forth. And this cover popped up on Glenn Brunswick's, one of his art drops. I emailed him. I'm like, Glenn, I want the cover. Can you give me a little time? That's the only thing I said to him. He said, yeah, Jay, give you time to pay it off, whatever. So we made a deal on it, 10 minutes after he had posted it. He emails me back 5 minutes later, apologizing. Jay, I'm so sorry. There was an email I missed that came in before you claiming this cover. So I didn't get the cover. So I was pretty bummed about that, because this was perfect for what I was looking for. It was in the price range I wanted, so on and so forth. A couple days later, Anthony Schneider sends me a picture of this cover. Anthony was the one who bought it from Glenn. So I know Anthony. I went down by Anthony, and we were able to work out a deal with trade. So he still made a profit off of what he paid, and I was able to get the cover I wanted, but not feel like I lost too much in the transaction. So it worked out that I was able to get this. But how funny is that, right? Like, that's one of the unique things about this hobby that I think is different than any other hobby, is you're not only competing with other collectors, 90% of the time you're competing with dealers on this stuff, because it's not like they can, this isn't mass produced. There's only so many pieces out there. There's only so many A pieces out there, that you're going head to head with people who have to buy this to fill their inventories to make a living. So it makes it even more competitive than any other hobby. With a comic book, there's guides. So an X-Men 1 may be $10,000. A dealer is not going to bid $15,000 on a $10,000 X-Men if that's what they're selling for them, because there's lots of them. With art, there's one of them. So they may bid or more than you expect, or more than you, or purchase it for more than you, just so that, and then mark it up and still be able to sell it or sit on it in inventory until the price realizes it. So it's one of the most unique things that I've ever come upon. And this one worked out really well for me, because I wound up with the cover I wanted. But there's other instances where, I'll try to buy something on Facebook or on CAF or whatever, and be laid in from a person, from another collector, and then 2 days later, it's on a dealer site for double the price or even more sometimes of what it was selling for a couple days before.
Right. You end up kicking yourself, right? That you just couldn't have been quicker.
Yeah. I mean, there was a page, and this one I kind of burns me a little bit. This is, I was trying to buy a page. Somebody posted on Facebook a page from Fantastic Four 250. It's a John Byrne book, right? But the X-Men are in it. So we all know how expensive John Byrne X-Men pages are. So I realized that that's probably not something that's going to happen anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
So he posts this page. It's got a beautiful shot. It's the Thing fighting Colossus. It's pure Byrne, right? I think Captain America was on the page too. It was expensive. It was a lot of money, but I wanted it. So I had somebody, another collector, who wanted a cover that I had made me a real strong offer a while back on the cover. So within 10 minutes, I messaged that collector. I'm like, look, if you still want to buy this, if you buy this, I'm going to go buy this Byrne page. Yes, I want it. I'll pay you today. All good. I messaged back the seller of the Byrne page, and he's like, you missed it by 30 seconds. I said, what? He goes, yeah, this guy's been shooting me offers all morning, less than I wanted. He finally agreed 30 seconds ago to what I wanted. And it was Glenn Brunswick. The page turned up on his page, on his site. So it's just, and for a lot more than it was. It was now it was out of reach where it was in reach then. So I just think that that's something that anybody who gets into this hobby needs to understand, that it's not just, you can't treat it like a comic book. You can't just go by comps. You just can't go, like you said earlier, a page from the same book could be so much more expensive than another one. But you're also competing with businessmen who are trying to fill their offerings. So it really changes. It's really something you have to take into effect when you're trying to say something is overpriced or something, the ask is crazy. Just totally different dynamic than anything I've ever dealt with before.
No, I know. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why the art market is where it is today. That is just one of them. I mean, just think about how many dealers are going to be bidding in the Heritage signature auction tomorrow. I mean, many, and but it's just kind of where we're at. Most dealers are collectors too, right? At the end of the day,
it's a muddy water. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony's a big, he's a big art collector. He has a very nice collection, and that makes it tough. Because I thought when he bought that Cardy piece, it sounded almost like he didn't want to let it go. I think I might have talked to him after he got it initially, and he was just very like, I really like this piece, and I think he showed it to me, or I can't remember how I knew that he had it, and then I saw you had it eventually. But yeah, it's tough. It's very tough. It's more competition out there than we all need.
Yeah.
And Kat says it's like its own vicious stock market.
Yeah, exactly.
And and Chuck says the prices are arbitrary. It's that's just it. It's always about what somebody's willing to pay or trade. I mean, I heard of a deal that went a little weird recently. Similar thing, a couple guys competing for the piece, and the same piece, and the price went up. Before the other guy got it, because like $500 up or something like that. So if you really want it, pay me $500 more and it's yours, because I'd rather sell it to this other guy. And that's what happens. It's like it really is supply and demand, and the supply is low and the demand is high. So yeah, I mean, and it's the Wild West. When something like that can happen, anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, that story's crazy, right? It's just amazing.
Yeah,
I'm happy I got the cover at the end, but
right. But so you made a deal to sell that piece, so now you've got extra cash. You had extra cash, right? At that point, where you.
Well, I made it contingent on me getting the piece. I was smart about that.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. So
he wound up getting it from me later, but I felt that. But originally, I made it contingent on me getting the Byrne page.
So yeah, Jimmy mentions Feds prop up the stock market and art dealers prop up the OA market. I mean, in their own way, I guess, right? I mean, but at the same time, all the collectors are propping it up too. I mean, it's everyone is to blame at the end of the day. Unfortunately,
we want it.
Right. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing where these pieces go tomorrow. Several of them in the heritage auction, just because I want to see if the trends all continue. That because to me it's like this isn't one of their best signature auctions, but there's a lot of really good pieces in it, but not fantastic. So that might mean, hey, okay, so there's no six-figure pieces that are going out there. Does that mean that there's going to be more money to spread around, and it's going to make those 10, 15, 20,000 pieces go for a little bit more than we all think they should? That's why. And of course, there's not a lot of competition. There hasn't really been a lot of any other major auctions around it. So people have money. It's after the holidays, and we'll see.
We'll see.
So do you tune into those live too?
I try to. I mean, I work during the day, so it's a lot of looking at my phone. The group. I'm in a group text with a bunch of other collectors. So like, jump on. Look at this. Did you see what this goes for? I try to.
Yeah. No, it's fun. It's like watching a sporting event.
That's one thing I'll say to any new collector. Even if you're not buying something actively in an auction, if you have the time, watch the auction. Because that's the only way you can learn the market and see what things are going for. Because that's the most natural pricing point you can get is the auctions.
I very much agree. And it also kind of gives you an idea, a better understanding of how people approach an auction, and bidding, and how sometimes, prices can go crazy at the last second. And to really, you kind of know that from eBay. I guess you see, people see sniping programs and that kind of thing happen a lot, but you don't see it. You have to really sit down and watch a heritage auction to kind of see, like remember that Steranko X-Men piece that just was bid up crazily at the end, where it went, I think it doubled in price in the last, and it was probably two bidders, right? It was just two bidders that really wanted that piece. And it just went crazy. And, but that helps you understand the passion and the fervor that can happen around an event auction like that for a piece that's really rare.
Yep.
So speaking of Paul Smith,
this is probably my favorite page I own. If finding a Paul Smith X-Men page, never mind how much it costs, just finding one you can buy is nearly impossible. I looked for well over a year. I never even sold one in an auction, for sale publicly, nothing. The only reason I own this page is because I'm friends with Encore. Encore, someone came to Encore and wanted a piece of his art really badly. And Encore would not trade it with him unless he included this piece because he knew how badly I wanted a Paul Smith page. So Encore worked out the deal, sold it to me for a very fair price, and that is the only reason I have this page. I love this page. It's so Paul Smith. Even though there's no costumes or anything, just the interaction of Scott and Madeline in this page goes to build so much of the X-Men story for 10 years after this. My dream, Grail is a word that's used a lot. My Grail would be to get a page from 175. Obviously, it's the first book I ever had. But just having this in my collection makes me so happy and fills a real gap in what I want my collection to look like.
Yeah, I'm jealous. Trust me. I've because having been collecting for as long as I have, a Paul Smith piece was always on my list as well. And early on, there's Gary Land is a big Paul Smith fan and bought up a lot of his work early on. And it was every single time a piece would come up to auction, I would get outbid by him. I mean, and literally, like the last time I did it was probably 12 years ago. It was a piece from. It was one of the Brood pieces. It had Colossus and Storm on it, and at the X Mansion, it was really beautiful. And I'm like, I'm going to put, so again, this is like 12 years ago. I maxed out my eBay bid at $4,000, and I thought for sure I was going to get it because I felt I was paying double what that page was should go for, or maybe 2,500 it could have went for it back then. And nope, he outbid me. With his at the last minute, and it was him too. I knew it. He hadn't placed a bid at all, and then right at the end, he just pushed it over the edge. So that just shows you how, in that instance, at least back then when he was really heavily into it, one collector can skew the entire market to where you're paying 40, 50% more if you could ever get it. And I've never owned a Paul Smith page. And probably never will at the rate it's going.
Yeah, they're tough. Like I said, though, not like you can buy a Jim Lee page right now. Like if you want to spend enough money, you can buy it. John Byrne, Dave Cockrum, you said about Cockrum earlier. They're in every Heritage auction. If you want to bid enough, you can. The Paul Smith stuff is too small of a run. There's too many big collectors that collect it to even find them. And that's one of my goals. I actually put some goals around collecting now is I want a piece from every X-Men artist that did at least 3 issues in the original title. Mm-hmm. So, Kirby, Warner Roth, Neil Adams, so on and so forth through the 90s, even past when I did it. And that's what I'm working on now. And Paul Smith is one of those pieces. So glad to have it.
Yeah, no, you're very lucky. And like you said, you could look a whole year and never see one available.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it is what it is. Yep. And Chuck agrees that 1 or 2 collectors can send prices skyrocket. It is. It's just how it goes, unfortunately. But no, yeah, I'm never going to give up hope. And the nice thing is, I know Paul Smith, and I think you have some sketches by him as well.
Yes.
Paul Smith, at least, he still has a very similar style to back then, and he does sell artwork through his personal website. On occasion, he'll throw up a batch of sketches. I forget where I follow him on, where I get announcements on that. But at least you can still own a piece.
Yep, and they're reasonable too.
Yeah.
There we go. I guess, Bill, you must have liked looking at my gallery being an X-Men fan. So this is my Kirby page.
It's a love-hate. But yeah, this is from issue 10, I think,
10.
right?
Yes, this is actually where they are first discovering the Savage Land, right? They're actually in Antarctica, and Cyclops is blasting away the snow to get into the Savage Land where Kazar is. Kirby, beautiful page. Got lucky again on this. Someone I know was selling it on the CGC boards and was nice enough again to give me some time to pay it off and work out how what it cost. And again, really glad, really happy to have this. It's signed by Kirby. It's signed by Stan Lee. This Silver Age stuff twice up is just amazing. The notes on the board, it's just unbelievable to me that this is from 1964. And it's survived all these years, and it's, he drew on it. The master hands were on this and put this together.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely beautiful, and I know, and it's funny, you figure that piece is almost 60 years old, and now you're the caretaker of it to make sure that it, that the piece lasts another 60 years. So that's the other great thing about this hobby is, there's a sense of responsibility among collectors when we own our work that you need to take care of it. You're not going to leave it in a portfolio on the floor where you might end up getting water damage. You have to think of all the horror stories that you've heard or that could happen in a given situation, and it makes some collectors pick up fire safes and that sort of thing just to make sure that that these artworks do are there for the next generation of art collectors.
Yes, sir.
And that's how you got that piece. And at the end of the day, there was probably several other collectors that piece passed through their hands. So
I'm sure this one's another good story. So this is obviously not Marvel and not X-Men and very outside of my normal fare. And the reason I picked this piece to give you is, one, it's a beautiful page, right? It's a Betty Page cover. Riley Brown is the artist on this. And we were at one of the small North Jersey has these little comic shows every month, and they're great. It's really the feel of an old time comic show, and Anthony does them. And I was there with my girlfriend Elizabeth, and I'm going through a bin of art, and didn't even look at this. Passed it right by. So Elizabeth makes me stop at this. She's a big horror fan. She likes that genre. She's an author, so this is right up her alley. And she stops me going through the bin and shows it to me. I'm like, yeah, it's nice. It's not what I collect really. And I go through the bin again. So we walk around the show a little bit. We go back to Anthony's booth, and I'm chit chatting with Anthony. And she's in the art, and she finds the cover again, and she goes, "You really don't like this?" I'm like, "I like it a lot. I just not what I collect." So we go off again and whatever, come back to say goodbye to Anthony and his crew there that I know. And she pulls out again. I said, "Elizabeth, you want that badly?" And she goes, "Well, I just think it's a great piece and we should own it." So I worked the deal out with Anthony and bought it. And we have an ongoing joke now that if she shows me something 3 times or talks about something 3 times, I have to stop and listen to make sure, because she's serious about it. And it came from this Betty Page cover.
Oh, that's funny. Well, so are you going to bring her to the next show?
She comes. She is the most supportive other half in the world. The guys know her. She bakes cookies for the comic dealers. They exchange Christmas cards. It's fantastic. It's actually, she might have me in trouble with Anthony because she saw something he liked on Sunday that I might have to go work out another deal with. But I'd rather have her enjoy it and appreciate it than what I hear some other spouses are not so appreciative of the hobby. So, yeah, she comes to all the shows. We flew out to Chicago, I guess the year before. Whatever shows were still on, we went out to the big show in Chicago there together. We made a vacation out of it. And that's the cover. It cost me a couple bucks here or there for a piece of art she loved. It's well worth it.
Yeah. Well, if she was baking cookies for everybody, they probably look forward to seeing her more than they look forward to seeing you.
She gets better deals from Anthony than I do all the time.
Oh, man. That's funny. Yeah, no, my wife likes, she appreciates the arts, but she's more of a sci-fi kind of nerd at the end of the day. Hopefully she's not listening, but she likes Doctor Who and classic Star Trek and that sort of thing. So
that's close enough. It's like adjacent. That's good.
Exactly. And we're big into horror too. That's how my son's name is Ash, because I named him after Ash from the Evil Dead. So, and she let me do it. So that was good.
So you're in the same place. Like I said, she likes it, and she knows, and she says when I see something, she could tell. Like there's a different look on my face when I first see certain pieces of art, and when she sees that look, she's like, "Just buy it. Figure it out later. Sell something, trade something. We'll figure it out." And that doesn't always help because then I wind up with more stuff, but it makes me understand she's right and understand that the piece is right all in one.
That's a great partner to have when you're trying to make a decision on your purchases or not. That's cool. I mean, I don't think Maureen has ever helped me make a purchase decision. She's always like,
show her some Paul Smith pages.
I should, that. I mean, well, she never read a lot, so she might look at it and not really see.
Give her the Brood Saga. You got a lot of space stuff going on there, right?
Yeah.
Aliens.
She might like that. That is true. I'll tell you, one of my deepest regrets was selling a Cockrum Brood page with all Wolverine, all battling, and I don't even know what I sold it. Yeah, I sold it to buy something else, but that would be a page that I should have taken to the grave with me because it was absolutely phenomenal. And I don't own any work by Cockrum right now, but that was like my favorite page. It was so darn cool. Like, the full shots panels of just like close-ups of Wolverine and he was fighting and he was slicing up some broods, and I'm dumb.
Oh man.
Yeah, that feeling.
This is another one. I love this page. This is Bernard Chang. This is from the Giant Size X-Men reimaging, I guess it was last year. They did a tribute to Giant Size X-Men. Marvel did it. They redid the entire book, having different artists each doing one page in the book. Like you said, there's no time. I'm not getting a Cockrum page in general from the first run, never mind a giant size page. So when I heard about this project, I wanted to try to get as many pages of this book as possible. So I heard about the project. It was actually delayed being published because of COVID, because it was actually supposed to come out in May or April, and it was pushed back because of everything that was going on. So I started hunting for these pages. So 37 pages, 37 different artists. Not everyone has a rep. Not everyone is on social media. So I actively was looking and trying to reach out to every artist who did a page in this book. Going through that, about a little less than 50% of the book was actually done digitally. So there's not actual original art for those pages. This is one of my favorite re-imaging because I don't know if you remember what the original Sunfire joining the team page looks like, but the Sunfire panel is a tiny little panel in the corner. And the artists were able to choose what pages they wanted to do in the book as they were assigning people to it. And Bernard chose this page because, one, he wanted to make the Japanese character more prominent on the page, and also to keep it culturally relevant to what was going on in the scene. So this is one of my favorites of the pages. I did wind up getting 8 or 9 pages from the book. That's the best I was able to do. And I got them from all over the world. I got some came from Italy, some came from South America, some came from Spain, some came from within the U.S. I'd love to get more of them if I can, but these are the only ones that I've been able to track down for the most part. And this is actually one of my favorites of them.
Didn't Anker get a piece from this as well, I think?
Anker is holding 2 pieces for me, yes. Till he's ready to let them go.
Yes, I think we featured one when we did the interview with him a few months back, or not last month.
Yeah, that was a nice one. Gorgeous. Oh, this is one of my favorite modern artists, and I do collect a fair amount of modern art. What I do with modern art is I try to stick to the characters I like, and then like very strong material like this page here. This is from a book called Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood that came out a few months ago. The artist is Josh Cassera. He's a fantastic artist. He's doing he's the regular artist on X-Force right now, and he did this Wolverine story. And what I really liked about this story, it was all black, white, and red. Those are the only colors in the book. So I reached out to Josh. I had gotten, actually, I met him buying a page from the giant size recreation that he had done. So we were friendly via social media. So I reached out to him about this book. I said, Josh, I'd like to get a couple pages from this. He said, all right. So once I had seen the book, I sent him the pages that I was interested in. And he offered to hand paint the reds onto the page. So he took the regular black and white art, and he himself painted all the blood onto these pages that I got from him. I know it was a little controversial for some collectors, but I thought it just was an amazing opportunity, and I think they came out fantastic. I couldn't be happier with the way it came out.
Yeah, I do remember that when you shared those pages on in one of the Facebook groups. Yeah, that some people thought it was sacrilegious, and other people were fine with it. It was done by the original artist, and it mirrors the way the work was published. So, and the blood was drawn on. I mean, there were, that was, if it was already there on the page. So having him go in and color it, I mean, I don't think I probably wouldn't have a problem with that either. There's always the controversy is when people color pieces afterwards, and it's not by the original colorist or the original artist. It's a colorist, or it's not even. There was those like Olaf's pieces that he hand painted. I think like the most classic example of that was like Avengers 198 cover is painted, or and beautifully so, but it looks just like the comic book now because he painted it onto it. And so but with art, the cool thing is there's still only one of them. So even if it's been painted over or if there's been something done to it, it doesn't make it any less valuable, and there's always going to be people who are interested in it. And so for what you had done here, I know I didn't comment on it just because I don't even remember why I didn't comment. but I would have said, I would have thought it was fine at the end of the day.
Josh was actually supposed to color it himself for the published book, but his deadline didn't allow for it. So that's why it wound up being digitally colored. So he was all about it. He wanted to do it. It just came out amazing. I don't know if you have the other splash I have from that. It's just all blood. It's an amazing scene.
I can pull it up on the screen here.
Don't worry about it. You got enough.
No, I got. I have the power to do that.
I mean, look at it's just an immense carnage. It's just absolute carnage what he created here. And then he went in and meticulously, and if you see some of the smallest, tiniest spots of red of what was published, he did every single one meticulously. Just amazing work that he did with it. I'm so happy I wound up doing it.
No, I definitely think it was the right choice, without question. And even and Kat agrees as well. I mean, why not, right? When you're getting the original person to do it, who and that was his original intent, was to put those colors in there on his own, then no, there's nothing wrong with that. And I wasn't familiar with their art either before you posted it, and I know that there's not a lot of his work on CAF, so hopefully that changes. I think there's only maybe 25 pieces by Joshua on CAF today.
Yeah, I picked up one of his X-Force covers right before Christmas. It's up there. He's very talented individual. This one I love. I mean, if you were a kid in the 80s, who didn't know Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, right?
Exactly.
This page. So I told you the first piece of art I ever bought was from Nate Stockman off of eBay, a commission. So when I got that and decided I wanted to do more, I wound up doing another commission through Nate. I reached out to him, and he agreed to do a villain's version of a fastball special with Juggernaut throwing Sabretooth to match my Wolverine and Colossus one. Well, while I was talking to him, we were talking about his art and what he had worked on and so on and so forth. And while I was searching his work, I found this issue from an Iceman book that had all the original Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends in it. So I asked him, did you happen to have any of this original art? And he said, yeah, I have this great half splash of the three of them coming at you. And because of that original commission, because of the nostalgia from the TV show, we got this page. And it's definitely a lifelong keeper. There's no way this is going. 6-year-old me would be terribly mad if I let go the only piece from Amazing Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Oh, I don't blame you. No, it's a great one. And yeah, who didn't grow up on that, right? And thoroughly enjoy it.
That's the commission.
Yep.
That's what led to that piece. So my first piece I had bought was the Wolverine Colossus fastball special, and then I commissioned Nate to do this. And Nate Stockman's a big X-Men fan, and he was so excited when I asked him to do this. Thought it was the greatest idea in the world. And the funny thing about this, Bill, this is one of my most viewed pieces on CAF. You've seen my gallery. I have some, decent stuff that's published, and people flock to this from a viewing standpoint.
Yeah, no, I actually notice, like, whenever I do an interview with anyone and I go through the pieces that they've picked out, I do go back and the first thing I always check is the most views and most commented pieces in their gallery, because I always ask people to find artwork with good stories, but at the same time I want to see if there's anything out there that I want to talk about it, and that's usually how I discover pieces. And so I did that same thing, and I saw that. I mean, you just never know which pieces in your gallery are going to become the most popular, especially after you've had your gallery for a few years.
if anybody out there is looking to get a commission done, I can't recommend Nate Stockman more. He's quick. He's very reasonable. He does some fantastic work. You just saw 2 pages here. So if somebody's looking to get a commission, reach out to him. I know there's a lot of people that get burned by commissions, but I will highly recommend him.
And does he have his own website?
All through social media. So Twitter's the best way to get him.
Okay.
This is another one that hit the nostalgia home run, and another kind of hen's piece, right? Pre-Unity Valiant pages are not something that comes up. This book came out in '92, I think, and I was a sophomore in high school, and Valiant books were just so different from everything else being put out at the time that they really hit home. Harbinger was my favorite storyline from it. So being able to pick this page up, I think it's from issue 5. I don't remember off the top of my head. But this was the crossover with Solar, and you have the team there plus Solar. Again, my appreciation of the comic book genre in general and the nostalgia with this just led me to grabbing it. And I was very excited to be able to pick it up. This was actually found on eBay.
That's a nice pickup. It's from issue 5, page 20. Artist is David Latham.
Yep. This is another one, another comic from my youth. John Byrne's run on Namor was, again, right there in that sweet spot. Being a teenager, loved this book, loved the series. The other thing that really drew me to this page is this story, Nazis and stuff. And before I got into art, I collected a lot of the timely war comics. And the fact that this was kind of a flashback to that time period in Namor's life really led me to it. And I love John Byrne art. Again, so probably not going to have a published X-Men John Byrne, but having this nice half splash of the Submariner, checking a few different boxes, and making me happy to own.
That's a great one. Yeah, your mic is breaking up just a little bit. In case anybody else was noticing that too, I don't know if it maybe somebody's surfing the internet elsewhere. But, it can happen. But we got a few more pieces to look at. These, yeah, I think those were all the ones you picked. I picked a few other ones as well.
Oh, the surprises now! Haha, you got it, Silvestri. You picked this Silvestri. I'm surprised you picked this one over the other one.
I like I looked at them both and I picked this one just because I don't know. Silvestri's someone who I've always wanted to pick up something from, and I've never actually owned any of his X-Men work. And so no, I saw this one. I liked it. I don't know. He could do no wrong as far as I'm concerned with even just talking headshots for mostly or whatnot. This page was one I really liked.
Yeah, it's a beautiful page. It's if it was main characters as opposed to what it is, it'd probably be a lot more sought after. But being an X-Men fan like you are, it makes sense because this is a pivotal page. This is when the X-Men disappear, right? Excalibur's missing, the X-Men are missing. This is actually in Excalibur's lighthouse. That's Amanda Sefton, and I forget the character from Excalibur, but they're all looking for Excalibur, and no one can find them. I believe it was right at the end of the Fall of the Mutants, where before the X-Men wind up in Australia. So great piece from a nostalgia standpoint. I love Silvestri's work. I love, again, amazing artist. This one is inked by Steve Laiola, as opposed to Laiola, yeah. Which gives it a little bit of a different look than the usual Dan Green ink.
Right.
Yeah. That image of Amanda Sefton, which is Nightcrawler's girlfriend, who's the sorceress or whatever, just teleporting, that you blew up there. It's just an amazing piece of art. I'm glad. Another one, just permanent collection. This one's going nowhere.
Good for you. I wouldn't let it go either.
I love this thing. This This is one of the few times I went against Encore's opinion of whether I should buy a piece. I actually own a couple Jim Lee. Don't own an Uncanny page yet. That is definitely on the short list of goals. But I saw this piece at the NJ Art Con at Albert Moy's booth. And I really, obviously, Jim Lee fan, Marvel. A lot of his stuff now isn't Marvel. So Hulk Sasquatch, really liked it. Remember the comics, fighting in the 80s, so on and so forth. Saw this piece at the Archon. So it wasn't cheap. Passed on it there. Kept thinking about it. Talked to a couple people. It's too much money. Don't buy it. So on and so forth. Wound up finding the piece. Jim Lee drew this on his Twitch account. And it's actually a recreation of one of the first commissions he ever did in the mid 80s. And he did it as a, now and then. And he did this. And watching him draw the entire picture and being able to kind of experience it that way, I called Albert up that week and wound up buying a piece.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. I mean, how often do you see Jim Lee draw the Hulk, right? So
yeah, it's very far and few between. And the funny part is, in between their arms, right below Sasquatch's arm, I don't know if it shows up on the scan, but Jim drew Wolverine there, charging at them, and then erased them. So just hilarious. In real life, on the wall, I can see it, but being able to see him draw it and watch the whole video and how it came to life pushed me over the edge to buy it, and I'm happy to have it.
Very cool. So you did. So Albert still had it, or did you end up having to pick it up from somebody else?
Albert still had it.
So this is the last piece I picked. Being a John Byrne piece as well, and from Elsewhere. I'm assuming you picked this up early when they started offering these.
It was actually, I call this my John Byrne cheat piece, right? Because I don't have any published, old stuff, but I saw he was doing the Elseones, and I had reached out to Jim Warden about them, and they were a little bit more than I wanted to spend on something that wasn't published. This page, John Byrne donated to Comic Link, so it was auctioned off on Comic Link with the proceeds going to an animal rescue. So I didn't buy it direct from Jim. I did buy it on the Comic Link auction, and I was able to do something good in life and help out some animals while doing it.
So did it go for more than you would have thought it would have went for if you would have bought it direct from Jim?
It went a little bit less than what Jim was charging for.
Well, that's what happens. I just know that I've seen a few of the pieces come up for sale lately, and they're all real expensive now. I was contemplating buying one, and now I'm thinking, no. I mean, more than likely, I can't see how that story doesn't get published.
That's what I said. But buy it, Bill. Go buy one.
I know. I think it has to happen. And, John's definitely put his heart and soul into it. And, I know that there's challenges to making it happen, but it really needs to happen. So my fingers are crossed that they'll actually publish it, even if they had to do something with, an artist edition or something, where they can get Marvel's permission to do it. That would be great.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be published eventually. That's one of the reasons I did want to pick one up. I may look to get more of them at some point. We'll see how it goes. But they're beautiful, and John Byrne's style changed from the 70s, but his style is still very similar to where it was in the 90s. So if you're a fan of that, this is right there, and it's just amazing work, all pencils.
No, I agree. And I didn't even know about it until he was like, I don't know, on issue 5 or something. And I happened to be talking with Jim Warden when we were trying to line up. I had asked, when we were trying to line up guests for the November show on Comic Art Live, I'm like, I'm going to swing for the fences. I'm going to see if I can get John Burns to do it. And so I had a long conversation with Jim Warden about it, and it came down to, well, I got Wagner instead, and John actually did say, well, I'll wait and see how things go with Matt, and maybe in May. So, but that's when in talking with Jim, where he was like, yeah, you've heard about Elsewhere, right? I mean, if you're a big Byrne fan, I'm like, I don't go over to Byrne Robotics at all, or follow anything really, and I guess I should have. So he was the one who turned me on to it, and got me to read it all. But I thought it was really, really great, and yeah, so it probably will never happen to get John on the show, but it would be pretty cool if I could get him into the May show. That would be my highlight from the November show was talking with Walt Simonson, in the green room during this, a chat like this, where we were just able to BS for a few minutes ahead of the show, and then afterwards. So yeah, getting to do that with John would be pretty amazing.
Start an online petition or something.
Right. I mean,
how many people want them?
Yeah. Everybody would want him for all the wrong reasons. We'd want him for all the right reasons, because, we love his work, and we'd want to, just I don't care what he could talk about Star Trek for an hour. You know what I mean? I would be totally into that.
I'd still watch it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So we'll see. It could happen, or maybe it won't. But let's see. I think that was the last image I picked out of here from you. Yeah, it was. All right. But so any parting words? I mean, as a new collector, I think you've actually said a lot of great things. It's fun when someone is offers advice, and it's probably just because of your relationship with Ankur and Nick that you think about those things. You think about talking about things that a collector needs to be considerate about, when they're dealing with a dealer or approaching an artist for a commission. And so those things are they're really important, because until you've met somebody else, or you've done it enough your own, on your own, you don't really develop good habits that people expect. You can always tell when I told the story the other day where I asked Albert Moy for free shipping, and I knew that was like the wrong thing to do. Even now, I still make mistakes after all this time, and because it was on a kind of piece where it's a rep piece where people have less wiggle room as dealers. So it's funny. How the hobby is, and how you have to kind of learn your way, but you can always tell when you're making a mistake. There's a wrinkled brow or a long delay between a text.
Yep.
That's how you learn. So
what I would say, well, number one, I always ask Albert for a discount, even though I know there's not one coming, I still try to negotiate. What I would say for a newer collector, one, make friends in the hobby, right? Because there's so many pieces that are available that aren't available, that no one knows are sold or traded or whatever. Without knowing where or who or what, you'll never have access to them. Buy what you love. Don't worry about if it's an investment or whatever. The market reflects the popularity of the characters and artists and so on and so forth. So buy what you love, and you'll probably wind up on the right end of it. And if you love it, don't be afraid to stretch a little bit, because I think that, like I said earlier, the hardest thing being a comic collector turning into an art collector was, where's the price guide? Like, how do I know if this is the right price or this is the wrong price, or if I'm getting ripped off or what? If you love the piece, within reason, go do your research. I'm not saying to just pay whatever, but if it's within reason, it's 10, 20% off, 30% over what you think it should be, buy it, because you may never see it again or never have the opportunity to get a page from a Paul Smith X-Men page. They're impossible to get. You may never see that specific page. That's the best advice I would give you. And not to be, this is a tough one. Try not to be a hoarder, right? You don't need the most pieces of art. Buy the best pieces of art, especially if it's modern art. The older stuff, the bronze and silver, sometimes you just got to take what you can get from what you want. But if you're buying modern art, buy the splash or buy the A character or the A artist. You're going to do better in the long run. More people are going to be interested in it in trade or whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's part of the reason why I think a lot of people do go for the volume, because they know they're getting pieces that maybe they know they're going to want to trade up for down the road, and so sometimes you don't pass up on those pieces. But that's the same mentality of a dealer, and that's where the lines get so blurred. When you've got dealers who are collectors and you've got collectors who are always thinking about the future. Sometimes you'll pick up a piece just because you like it, but other people are going to want it, and it could come in handy a year or two down the road, right? And so you just never know. And but again, that's why the market's so tough, because that is kind of the game. Even pieces that you wouldn't think you'd ever see for going for so much are. Because some people are willing to sit on some stuff for a very long time. I know a dealer who I had seen some stuff that they had picked up almost 10 years ago, and I looked at it at the time, and they literally told me at that time they weren't going to sell them. And then I saw them again, probably like 2 years ago, and they still had them all. And I'm like, "Why are you sitting on these things, man?" And he's like, "Well, I don't need the money." And they were still like in the same manila envelope that they were in when I saw them the first time, and it kills me, because it's like these pieces were probably $500 or $600 when I saw them originally. They're easily $7,000 or $8,000 now, and they're still sitting on. They still won't sell them.
It's the only hobby where prices go up when it sits for a long time. Everything else you buy, if it sits on the shelf for too long, the price goes down. In this hobby, it goes up.
Yep. No, it's very, very true. Very true. Well, listen, this has been great. I don't know if we have any. I'm trying to look and see if there's any other questions or whatnot that we missed. Rob says quality over quantity, and that's, like you said, that's very, very true. For me, collecting on a budget, it's sometimes you just have to you're only going to have one good representative piece from the people that you want to collect. That's a very good way to approach, what you're buying, so you don't overspend. That was a problem I ran into early on, where I was sometimes racking up a little bit of credit card debt. I'd always pay it off at the end of the month, but it would always scare me sometimes, where you just it's that impulse buying. So that you kind of have to measure that out, so you don't get.
When I started, they make fun of me. I hit everything that moved. Shiny squirrel, shiny squirrel. I've been lucky to be able to trade a lot of the stuff that doesn't fit what I want to do, or what hits home. But don't use credit. That doesn't mean don't ask for time, right? Don't put it on your credit card. Let them owe the money to the dealer or to the other collector or whatever for 3 months or whatever it takes you to pay off. Because it is too easy to just press bid on that auction tomorrow, right? I'm going to be working and have that auction open to the right, and you wind up with biting off more than you could chew.
Yeah, and a lot of dealers do offer time payments, like you had said with Scott Williams. But I can't think of any dealer that wouldn't offer them. And no interest.
Yeah, that's.
So as long as you can stick to the payments, you're in good shape. That's and you don't want to drag those out. If you commit to doing, $500 a month for 6 months to pay off a $3,000 piece, stick to it. Because the worst thing in this hobby is getting a bad name for yourself, because it will stick with you forever. So, because it is still small enough that, if you stiff one guy, whether it's a dealer or collector, word will get around. And everybody.
I always try to pay it off quicker than what I agree on, right?
Yeah.
So if I ask for 4 months, I get it done in 3 months. If I ask for 6, I get it done in 4. I think that builds goodwill, and it builds that name for you. And I'm paying off a nice X-Men page now. You'll see it probably in April or so.
Oh man, you're gonna make me wait that long? All right, no, that's cool. But again, that's the right way to do it. If you can, you want to always try to impress. You don't want to, because I've heard of guys getting horror story, problems in the past where they'll be making payments to 3 or 4 different people at the same time. Word gets around about that too. You know, I mean, all you need is 2 dealers talking, and it's like, oh, you know, Bill's only on his second out of 5 installments on something. The other guy's like, well, shoot, he just started time payments for me. You know, so people get, you know, worry about your reputation. That's, you know, that's something I've never said that on one of these chats before, but it's certainly true in this hobby.
It's a very small hobby. Everybody knows, everybody has their own group text of 6 or 7 collectors, and that word flows out very quickly. And this page I'm paying off now is from a fellow collector, and the only reason I'm getting it is because of CAF. I reached out to a pretty big collector, and he didn't have this page active on the site, but I asked about something else, and he said, well, I don't want to sell that, but I have this page if you want to work something out. And you know, it wasn't for sale. It was because I proactively reached out, and that's something you need to do to get certain pieces.
Yeah, no. Well, it sounds like you kind of you turn over a lot of stones. I mean, if you like with the giant size X-Men, for you to go out and track down 8 or 9 pieces across the globe, I mean, you know, buying art sometimes takes a lot of work.
It does. But that's the hunt. I love the hunt. I love trying to find it. And if anybody has giant size X-Men pages, let me know. X-Men 175. If you're thinking about selling it, reach out to me. If you just maybe next year, just let me know, and we'll talk next year. Or put me in the will. I tell Nick all the time, he has a beautiful Captain America page by Sal Buscema fighting Cyclops. I said, Nick won't sell it to me. So I told him he's got to put it in a will for me.
Did he say he would, though?
I don't know. He's got a couple kids. We got to work it out. That's my lovely girlfriend right now. Still watching.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. I had a feeling. But yeah, Nick's got one hell of a collection, and certainly the Sal Buscema pieces for sure. Yeah, he is the main guy for Sal's work. But so I think that was actually a question asked earlier that I did skip posting, was someone asking, you know, what's next on your list or big on your list. So something from 175 is definitely, because wasn't that the Jusco cover too? Am I mistaken?
X-Men 175? No, it was a Smith cover. That's a Phoenix.
Okay. I'm sorry. I was thinking of that one. I can't think of which cover I'm thinking of now. The Jusco one, the painted cover that he did.
Yeah. No, that's a Smith Phoenix cover. It's the first book I ever owned. That's the page I want most. So if I can find it, we'll work out a deal somehow, some way.
Well, good luck. Well, hopefully somebody will see this and maybe ping you. I don't know if I added your gallery link in the description, but I will make sure it's in there afterwards. So everybody who's been watching the show tonight and in the future, definitely check out Jason's gallery. Leave him a comment or two or a like or two. It's always a good thing. So
send me a message. I love to talk art.
There you go. And even Nick says you're a breath of fresh air.
I'm gonna have to buy him lunch for that comment.
There you go. Yeah. when we can, right? When we can all get out and do that again.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, Jason, it's been a lot of fun. I do appreciate it, and I think this was definitely a good conversation, and you made a lot of good points, and I'm glad that we were able to do this evening.
Me too. Thanks, Bill.
Yep. All right, everybody. Yep. Dinner, not lunch.
You got it, Nick.
All right.
We'll live stream with Bill while we're at dinner.
That would be nice. All right, everybody. You guys have a great evening. And actually, I do have another live stream tomorrow where I'm doing a CAF update, and I've got a couple different collectors who are heavy into con sketches, and so that one's going to be, totally different topic, because I've never really talked with people whose primary focus is, dealing direct with artists and just getting sketches and commissions. So it should be a lot of fun.